Kakelosh Boker Or, Masechet Gittin Daf Nun Chet Amud Aleph 58a1. Says the Gemara on the bottom of Nun Zayin Mubet, the last line. Amar Rav Chanan of Yochanan, says Rav Chanan named Yochanan. 40 se'ah shel chtzutze tefillin. There was 40 se'ah of batet tefillin nimtzeu b'rashe arugei betar that was found at the deaths of arugei betar. So imagine how many tefillin, right? Because when it says the chtzutze, it's the batim without the ritzuot, meaning the actual houses, the boxes without the ritzuot, right? Without the strings, the straps. So Rabbi Yishmael says, Shalosh kupot shel 40 se'ah. There was 4 kupot, right? And each one, as a shalosh kupot, 3 kupot of 40 se'ah. So imagine how many there was. Matida Tana 40 kupot, 40 kupot of shalosh sein, of 3 sein. Okay? Vela plige, but there's no machloke between the different shitot. One more time. You had 40 se'ah, okay, which is going to be 44 beitzim, or you had, right, 3 kupot of 40 se'ah, and the last one was 40 kupot of 3 se'ah. And he says, and there was no machloka between them. One was talking about, right, that the nefach of the batei tefillin was 120 se'ah, was tefillin shel rosh, and the other one was a tefillin shel yad. Okay, because basically the batei tefillin shel rosh are bigger than the tefillin shel yad. Okay, so he comes and he says, okay, here he says the reason why is because obviously the one of the rosh, right, each one is going to be considered in one, in the separate compartments, and the one of tefillin shel yad is going to be in the one compartment. Okay, so that's why nowadays obviously we don't have a minhag of making it any bigger. Nowadays it's the exact same thing, but in the olden days that's what they used to do. Okay, fine. So he comes and he says not like this. Amar, right? That's why, by the way, if you ever pay attention, the one of the rosh have like lines. The one of the yad does not, because the one of yad, it's one parasha. It's 4 parashiot, but one scroll, right? One scroll. The one of the rosh, each one is separate. That's why there's 4 separate compartments. So because of that, right, that's why it's going to be like that. Amar Biyasi, says Biyasi, 4 kabin moach nimseu aleven echad. You know that there was going to be 4 kavs of moach, of brains, of Yaldei Yisrael that were found on one stone. Ula says it was 9 kabin. Amar Rav Kahana vitema Shila Barmare. Says Rav Kahana and said it was a Shila Barmare. Maikra, what's the pasuk? Bat Bavela Sheduda Ashre Shishayim Lach Egmulet Shegman Lanu Ashre Shiyochez Nipechz Et Olalayich El Asala. From this pasuk, it's mashma that the Oyevea Shel Bavel, right, which means the enemies, right, they're going to come and they're going to kill Yaldei Bavel Asala Kegamul Al Shasu Ken Yaldei Yisrael, just like, right, they did to Yaldei Yisrael, meaning just like they came and they took the Jewish children and they were killing them and, you know, taking out their brains, right, on the stones, so too they're going to do the exact same thing to Bavel. Midah keneged midah. Right, measure for measure. What goes around comes around. Bnei Tzion haikarim amsulaim b'paz. What does that mean, Bnei Tzion haikarim? Right, that they are going to be with paz. Paz is gold. Okay, so he comes and he says this: "My mesulaim b'paz. Ilema dehavu mechape b'piza." If you're going to tell me, right, that it was covered with gold, ve'amri devera b'shila. They said in the Karim b'shila, tarte matke leistira piza nachut be'alma. There's 2 different mishkalim, 2 mishkals of istira, of paz that came down into the world. One of them is in Rome, and one of them is in the entire world. Ella, but rather, right, shayu meganin and tapaz biyofyan. They used to come, and Bnei Tzion used to say, that look at this, that the yofi of Yaldei Tzion is much greater than the yofi of the paz. So meikara chashive de Rome havonakto belyona de gushpanka sham shar sayo. At the beginning, chashuve Rome used to take these beautiful things on their tabaot, right, in order that their wives should see it, and then they used to have relations, right? Remember that whatever they're going to come, and if the woman is going to have, right, the relations and being seeing these things, so therefore the child will come out exactly like that. That we learn from the Yaakov Avinu, the Makalot Hatzon, right? We already learned that from there, that the way that he actually took them, right, with this. Mikam ve'elach, but after that, Maitu b'nei Israel, they took from the Bnei Israel, ve'asri bekared de purhayu mishamshe. They used to take from the Bnei Israel, right, and they used to put them by the beds, right, they used to put them, tie them by their beds in order that they should have relations, and then they're going to have children like the Yaldei Israel. So Amaleh chad lechavre. So it once happened that there was a person that he came and he said to his friend, Hahecha kativa, right? This punishment of tying them to the bottom of the beds, right? Where is this written in the pasuk? Amaleh, it says in the pasuk, Gam kol choli v'chol makah. Also any type of sickness or any type of a wound, which is not written b'sefer Torah zot, Yalem Hashem alecha, Hashem will actually come and put it upon us. Amar kamar merchikna miduchta pelan. How far are we from this? Right, which means how can we learn out from this pasuk? So he says, Amaleh, ingid, such a small thing, pusta upalga, which is daf v'chetzi. Right? Amaleh, if so, imatai legabelo tzlichalach. If I would have gone into that pasuk, so then I wouldn't have needed you. Meaning he comes and he says, okay, fine, but when am I going to get to that pasuk? He says, in another daf and a half, you're going to get to that pasuk. So he says, I don't need you then. If it's already written in Furash in the Torah, so therefore I don't, you understand, I don't need it anymore. Right? So he says that it was actually a hint in the pasuk because of the way that it is. It's not like Mamasha was there. It was hinted in the pasuk in such a fashion. Okay? So now he comes and he says like this. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Says Rav Yehuda in the name of Shmuel, in the name of Rabban Shimon Gamliel. My dichtiv, what does it mean in the pasuk in Hechal? Eni olela lenafshi mikol benot iri. Right? What does that mean? My eyes are going to be, right, for my soul, right, for all the daughters of my nation. What are we referring to exactly? He says, do you know there were 400 synagogues in Beitar? And each one of them, there was 400 מלמדי תינוקות. And each one had 400 תינוקות שבית רבן. כשהיה אויב נכנס לשם, היו דוקרים אותם בחוטריהן. Right? He says, when they used to come in, the Talmidim used to come and they used to kill them. Well, they're makels. That means there were so many people, they used to come and they used to kill them. However, once the Oyevim came and they would overcome them, that's it. They wrapped them around the Sefarim that they were learning, and then they put it on fire. Right? So just to show you that at the beginning, there was just so much of the power that they were actually killing them all. We learned it a Braita. Masechet Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya. There was a story of Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya. Shalach lekrach gadol sheberomi, that he went to a big city in Rome. Amrulu, and they said, Tinok echad yesh vet asurim yefa einayim v'tov rei. So this Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya is actually very, very interesting. We were going to learn a shiur on Pidyon Shvuim, and it's this Gemara. So Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya went to a city in Rome, and they told him that there's a child that he's got beautiful eyes and very handsome. Ufutzotav siduro lo taltalim, and he's got beautiful hair as well. Halach ve'amar petach bet asurim. He went and he wanted to check him. V'amar mi natalim shisa Yaakov Yisrael bezudim. Who was the one that's going to give to Yaakov, right? To how do you call this? Like how do you call it?
For spoil.
Spoils, right? That's Yisrael is going to become for spoils, right?
For Yaakov for spoil, and Israel to plunderers.
Okay, he flipped the order, which means Yaakov Yisrael bozizim. So now Oto, he came, the child went and he said, Hello Hashem, it's Hashem. Zuchatanu, right? We sinned against him. We didn't go in his path, we didn't want his path. I am certain that he's going to be a great person in Israel. Havodah, he swore, he's going to redeem him no matter what. Amru, they said, he went and he redeemed him for a lot of money. Who is it? Bishmael ben Elisha. Okay. So there was a Kohen Gadol, which was Rabbi Ishmael ben Elisha, right? So here it says he also had a grandchild, which was called Rabbi Ishmael ben Elisha. Okay. So it could be that this is actually the grandchild. Yeah. Right? It's probably the grandchild. Okay, and then he's not the Kohen Gadol himself, the grandchild of the Kohen Gadol. Okay? So Amar of Yehuda.
So he went there because he was handsome?
Now a very famous story during the Tkufa, which we actually read, right, in the Kinot, right? And it says like this, Amar of Yehuda Marav, says of Yehuda the name of Rav, Maaseh bivno b'bito shel Rishmael ben Elisha. There was a story of the son and the daughter of Rishmael ben Elisha, shenishbu l'shnei adonim, that were captured, right, between the two different masters. Liamim, right? Liamim, right? Nizdavgu, right? Shnehem b'makom echad. So it happened that they both were taken into one, right, into one place. Ze omer, this one comes and he says, Yesh li eved she'en ki yofio b'chol olam. Right? I've got a slave that there's nothing like his beauty in the entire world. Right? Now these are the children of Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha. Okay? So he comes and he says, and what happened was, is V'zeh man, and this one says, I've got a shivcha, Shem b'cholan right kulo kiyofya. Amru, they said, you know what, 1 second. Let's get them married to each other. And then we're going to split the children. Let them have children, and we'll split them. They brought them into the room one night, right? Right? Each one was sitting in their own corner, right? One of them says, "Ani kohen ben kohanim gdolim, esa shivcha." He comes and says, "I don't understand. I'm a kohen, the son of kohanim gdolim. I'm going to come and get married to a shivcha." You know that's like the worst, the low of the low. The Zotoman, and she's saying, "Ani kohenet. I'm a kohenet, but kohanim gdolim, and I'm going to get married to an eved." Ubachu kol halayla. They were crying the entire night time. Meaning they didn't come together. They were just crying the entire night. Once it came the dawn, they recognized each other. They were brothers and sisters. They fell on each other and they just continued crying until they passed away. That means, they were just crying and crying. And why they were crying? So there was a whole concept that I once saw that they were crying because they suspected each other of being an eved or a shivcha, right? Which means that how could it be that they actually went and they suspected each other of that? So because of that, they were crying until they passed away. And Yirmiyahu came and he made a kina and he said, Al elle, on these, ani bochia, I'm going to be crying, eni yordamain. My eyes are having the tears are just coming down like water. Okay? So this is in the kinot. If you remind me, I'll show it to you. It's mamash, it's right there. So then the next part the Gemara says, Shakish says Shakish, Maaseh b'isha achat. Right, there was a story with a woman. It's Safnat bat Peniel Shema. Her name was Safnat bat Peniel. Safnat, why was she called Safnat? She called Sophia B'Yofia, because everyone was looking at her, but she was so beautiful. Bat Peniel, she was the daughter of a Kohen Gadol. Sheshimesh lifnai v'lifnim, that she was Mishamer. That means the Kohen Gadol, the father was Mamash Mishamer. Shenitalel b'shabai kol halayla. Somebody came and he had relations with her the entire night time. Lemachar, the next day, Hilbisha shiva chalukim. He put her on 7 clothes. Right? So he came out and he wanted to sell her. Somebody came and he said, show me your beauty. You want to take her, whatever. She's the most beautiful you'll have. Right? So the 7th one, she tore herself and and she went in the efer. She said in front of Hashem, Ribono shel olam, imalenu lo chasta al kidushat shimcha agibor, lama lo techus. He says what? If you didn't have mercy on us, right? Why don't you have mercy on your name? Right? At least on that. So he comes and he says, right? Yirmiyahu was saying a kinot on her, and he said, Bata mi chigri saki pashiba efer, evli achida silach, nispet tamrunim ki pitom yevo shodel len. What does that mean? Batami, the daughter of my nation, that you're going to put on sackcloth, and you're going to be rolling around in the effort, right? And all of a sudden the shoded is going to come. Alaych no ne'emar ela alenu, on us. Keviyachol it's alay ve'alaych b'shoded, that he came unto me and to you as well. Amar Rav Yehuda Marav, says Rav Yehuda the name of Rav. My dichtiv, what does it mean in the pasuk? Ve'ashku gever ubeto v'ish nachalato. Maaseh be'adam echad shenatan enav beshet rabo. This is a very famous story as well. There was a person that he wanted to have relations with the wife of his master. Now this person, he was a talmid of a nagar, of a craftsman. So imagine he was this person, a nagar, and he wanted to be with the master's wife. So it once happened that he needed to borrow money. Amarlo, he says, right? Send your wife to me. And I'm going to lend you the money. So he sent him the wife. He purposely kept her by him for 3 days. Yeah, he kept her for 3 days. Kadamu ba'etzlo. Now, the Talmid was very, very smart. He went and he came first to the master. And he tells her, Ishti, right? So he tells him, where's my wife? Right? He came and he says, where's my wife? I just sent you my wife. Amalo, he says, what? I sent her away right away. Right? Vishamati, right? And I heard, Shatinokot nitalu babaderech, that she was fooling around with the teenagers. She was fooling around on the path. Amalo, he says, what am I going to do? Amalo, he says, if you want to listen to me, Gersha, divorce her. Amalo, what are you talking about? She's got a huge ketubah. Amalo, he says, don't worry. Ani elvecha, I'm going to lend you. V'ten la ketubata, you give her the ketubah. Amadze, the girsha. So he got up and he divorced her. Yeah, Allah v'nesa. So he went and he got married to her. Now it came the time he didn't have the money to pay back. Right? Amarlo, he said, right? He comes and he says, Boaz say, you know what? Work for me for your chov. Work for me. Right? Vayusham yoshvim. So the Talmid and the guy's wife were sitting, eating and drinking, and he was coming and he was giving them to drink. He became the butler, he became the servant. Right? It's soft. So there were tears coming out of his eyes. Was coming into their cups. On that moment was a gzardin. Yeah, and some people say, right? Because the Zina Talmid, he went and he had relations with the wife of his master, right? And because of that, right, he comes and he said, right, that this is what happened. So now the Gemara comes and says, what about if he took from the Sikrikon, right? And then you took it from the Balabait. So he said, it's going to be Mekho Batel. Why is it going to be Mekach Batel? Because if you bought it first from the Sikrikon and then from the Balabait has nothing to do. Because basically, if you already bought it from the Sikrikon, Gamarnu, right? What he's going to say now? No. Hey, you're going to go back to Sikrikon and then you're going to have a problem again. So therefore, it's going to be Batel. So Amar Rav comes and he says, Lushanu Ela da Amarlo. That's only if you told him, Lech Chazeh Ukni. If the Balabait comes and he tells him, go make a kinyan and a chazakah in the karka, and then you're going to acquire it. Since there's only dvarim, there's only words bilvad, the Balabait could have told him, I didn't have kavanah to sell it to you, bemet, but rather I wanted you to do it like the easiest way that I could come and I could get it out. Aval bishtar, but if he sold it to him and he wrote a shtar, kana, the guy does acquire it. Right? Why? Because if he didn't really want to sell it to him, so why did he write him a shtar? He should have just told them, go make a chazakah. Why did he give him a shtar? Shmuel says, no, even with a shtar, also he doesn't acquire it. Achichtov lo achrayut, unless he's going to write achrayut on the karka. Meaning, even if it was that he did give him a document, it's still not going to be a good sale, unless he's going to write him on achrayut on the money. Tanya Kavated Shmuel, 58b. So it says, we learned in the Braita in accordance to Shmuel, Shmuel says, remember, if a person comes and he's going to take afterwards from the man, right? So he said the mekach is going to be kayam. Minayish, that means it's going to be a good sale. He took it from the man and then he took it from the woman. It's going to be batel. Until he's going to write it, the achrayut. So this is in accordance to the words of Shmuel. That means even if you wrote him a shtar, it's still not good until he writes him achrayut nechasim. So name a tiyuf to do the. Why don't we say this is a tiyuf of Rav? So Rav is going to answer you. Rav, my achrayut. Nami, what are we talking about achrayut? Shtar is an achrayut. So therefore, he comes and he says, right? That's what we're talking about over here as well. That means according to him, the achrayut is the shtar. Tan Rabbanan, we learned in a braita, right? He comes and he says like this: Lakach min hasikrikon va'achala shalosh shanim b'fnei balim. What happens if he took it from the sikrikon and he had 3 years of a chazakah in front of the owners? Right? Then he comes and he sells it to somebody else. The Baalim cannot do anything to the second owner. right? Why? They can't do anything, right? What was the case? Either Katayim V'amar Minach Zavna, if he's going to come and he's going to say that I bought it from you, so Afilu Rishonami, so then even from the first one, it's going to be believed. If he's not going to say that I bought it from you, right? That means the Braita is talking about where the case where the second Lokeach says, he doesn't say, I knew that it was from you from the beginning. So Afilu Shinina Milo. So then even even the second one, right? He can't have a chazakah. So why are we saying that the balabait cannot actually come and grab anything? So Amar Shashat says at Shashat, Leolam de lo katainli. Really, the second purchaser is not saying anything from the first purchaser. Gonzeh, for example, in this case, right, that he purchased it from the Sikakon and then he ate 3 years and then he sold it, and the balabait wants to take it out from the second guy, right? So he comes and he says, Toanin le yoresh, toanin lokeach. We're going to come and we're going to, the first lokeach that he's giving it to the balabait, right, is proportion, and therefore we're going to say that he has a chazakah in the karka, even if we do not know, if he doesn't know how to say it himself, we are going to give the tanot. We are going to act as the judge and jury to become like his defendant. The idach and the first purchaser, itain only if he says it. Right? If he says that the balabait gave him his chelek, then it's going to be okay. But if not, no. Which means like this: you have the owner of the house. The sikakon came and he took it from the owner of the house. Right? Now he comes and he sells it to Mr. A. Mr. A lived there for 3 years. After 3 years, he came and he sold it to Mr. B. Yeah, in such a scenario, for Mr. A, if he doesn't say anything, we leave it up to him, which means that he's going to lose out because he has to be able to give the ta'anot on himself, and he has to be able to give over his own defense for himself. But on Mr. B that bought it from Mr. A, after Mr. A already lived there for 3 years, we give the ta'anot for him. Ta'anot means that we're going to give the reasoning, meaning even if he doesn't know what to say, he comes to the team. What are you doing in the field? We're going to say, what are you talking about? He bought it from Mr. A. Mr. A was there for 3 years. He just bought it, so it's okay. We're gonna act for him, right, as the defendant.
It's like the paintings that the German, stole from the.
We learned in a Braita, right? If there's going to be now a goy which is coming abba mechamat chov, right? What does that mean? He's coming because of, so this goy comes, he steals karka from Israel, right? Because of a chov that he's chayav lo. Umechamat amparut, which means he comes and he steals it without any ta'ana, right? So embo mishum sikakon. There's no din of sikakon, which means in such a case, the chachamim do not come and say that if it stayed in the hands for 12 months, so therefore if you're going to buy it, you have to give it back, whether it's going to be the reva, right? Like takana chachamim, and he could grab it. But even after 12 months, the lokeach has to come and give it back for free, right, to the baalim. Meaning this case is not like the sikakon. This case, mamash, you have to give it back for free. The anparut atzma, bagezel without any tana, tzricha shetish'eh 12 chodesh, has to be 12 months in the hands, right, of the gazlan, and then he could acquire it for himself. So says the Gemara, I thought you said that there's no sikakon. Meaning that which the chachamim say that after 12 months, if you're good, you could still leave it in your hands, is dafka if you purchase it from a sikakon, but not from this case. So says the Gemara like this. Hachi kamen. This is what it really means to say. Sikakon atzma tzricha shetishe 12 chodesh. When we say emparut emba mishum sikakon, it means that if you're going to buy it from the sikakon, right, you're allowed to give it to the baalim a quarter of the value of it, and it stays in your hands. But the lokach mi gazlan stam, right, you have to give it back to him for free. Okay, the sikakon himself, it has to be there for the 12 months. Okay, so that's what we said. That's only if it was in the hands of the sikakon for 12 months. Meaning the sikakon, he has to keep it in his hands for 12 months. If he doesn't have it in his hands for 12 months and somebody purchases it in between, that guy just lost out. Because it has to be that the sikakon had it for a certain amount of time. Now, after the certain amount of time, now he comes and he sells it. Now, if you bought it, so now it's something else. Samar of Yosef says of Yosef, Naktina, we also have a Masoret, Enan Parut beBavel. There's no gezel, right, without a tana in Bavel. What does that mean? So it means like this. He says, 1 second, but we see that some people come and a goy does steal it from the Jews, even in Bavel. Oh, you think Bavel, they're all tzaddikim? Also in Bavel, there are people that they come and they steal without any tanot, and that's it. So he says, no, you're right. Ela ema en dinam parut beBavel. There's no din of parut in Babel. My time, what's reasoning? Kevan diika beit davar, because since there's shoftim, right, that the balabait could be tovea by the goy, velo azil kabil, and he didn't go and scream in front of the bedin of the goyim, basically there. We're going to say that he was machal on the gezer. Meaning like this: if a person comes and he doesn't say anything, why didn't you report it? Why didn't you report it? Right? He should have reported it. He goes to the Bet Mishpat. Why didn't he do that? Now, again, we're not talking about life and death, because if we're talking about life and death, there's nothing we'll talk about, right? And if they're going to shoot him in the head, if he's going to do such a thing, that's a sikakon. Right? Here, we're not talking about that. Here, somebody came by force, they grabbed it from him. Go to court. Why didn't you go to court? The fact that he didn't go, that's already, you're mochel. So now he says like this: Gidal bar re'ilai kabila ra betaska mi bnei baga. So he received a bik'ah, right, of the few people that they went over there. So he's going to kilu pay the taxes, and he received a piece of land. So so they went and he paid for 3 years. L'sof ata marvata kamai. At the end of the first year, the Baalim came back. Right? So imagine, he received a piece of land, he pays 3 years of taxes for you, and all of a sudden, after the first year, comes the owners of the land, and they say, what are you doing? So Amrulei, they went and they told Gidal, Shata kamaita diyahav tachalt, that which you paid the first year, right? Fine. But hashta, from now on, anan yavinan anan achlina. From now on, right, we're going to pay the mas, and we're going to keep the land, because it's ours. So Atul Kamed of Papa, they came in front of Papa. Sabar lamichtav le tirfa b'nei baga. So he wanted to write from Gidal, Ashtar Givya, which is like a document to collect, which is going to be miapek kocho, to take from b'nei bika that which he paid, right, for the next 2 years, right? Because basically, if the king wouldn't have come, right, if they wouldn't have, so then the melech would have taken it down. So therefore, at the end of the day, he actually lost 2 years, right? So he comes and he says, and now, right, shechazru baalim, right?
So you know in the system,
right? He comes and he says like this. He says, from the fact that, right, the baalim are going to come back, he says, what's happening? So he says, Amale Ravuna beder Rav Yoshua of Papa. Says Ravuna, the son of Yoshua of Papa. In Ken, if so, asita misikron. You just did him a sikakon, right? You just did to Gidal, just like the case if you're buying it from sikakon. The Chachamim said that he's not going to lose his money that he gave to the sikakon, because if you're going to say now the Bnei Vikad they have to pay Gidal the money, so now you're coming in as if to say that the Melech is like a sikakon that he wants to steal from the people, and Gidal is considered that he bought it from the sikakon. So because of that, right, according to what you just said, what's going on there? So Ela, but rather, Amar Ravuna, says Ravuna, Bered Rav Yoshua, Hiniach Ma'otav al Keren Tzvi. He comes and he says, so he was the one that he put his money on top of the horn of a deer, and therefore he paid it already. He paid 3 years in advance. Huh? No Mishnah Rishona. We said in the Mishnah that this is the first Mishnah. They said, if you're going to come and you're going to purchase from the Sikakon, you have to pay a Ravia. You have to pay a fourth. Amar Rav, Ravia, he says, what do you mean Ravia? Ravia me'amaot, you have to give it in the karka, which means if the karka is shaveh, reva, mashu natan, or Ravia b'maot, right? That's what it means. That's the question. It means basically what's happening is that the kavanah is that the purchaser has to give the Baalim a quarter of the money that he gave to the Sikakon bekarka, right? Which is if the karka was Shaver Reva, right? Which is basically going to be the 1/5 of the karka shekana, or he's going to give a Reva in the Ma'ot. Okay, so here he's trying to explain that the Ravia is Reva Ma'ot that he gave to the Sikakon, right? So that's what we're saying, a quarter. So he says, so if the Sikakon came and he gave a mana, so you have to come and he says, so it was basically worth a mana v'reva, right? So therefore he has to give a reva mana, right, to them. Okay? Okay, you have 2 ways of doing it. Either money or karka b'shavir, either money or karka. Shmuel Amar, and Shmuel says, Ravia b'karka, shen shlish ma'ot. So Shmuel comes and he says, no, it's a quarter of the karka, which is going to be a third of the money. Okay? B'maika mipalge. So he comes and he says, right? What is the machloke between them? More savar, one of them holds, nechi ravia, right? What does it mean, nechi ravia zavin? Right, which means the sikakon is going to sell, right, less than the true value. So it comes out that if the sikakon sold it for a mana, really be'emet, it's worth mana v'shlish. And therefore he has to give, right, to Reva Ma'akakao shlish mana. More savar nechechun shazavin. He's going to sell it, right, with 1/5 less. Okay, that it's going to be shaveh, right? Chamesh u'mocher be'arba, 1/5 less, or is it going to be 1/4 less? Okay, basically that means according to everybody, the sikakon is selling it for a lower value than the true value. The only question is how much less. Right? Remember, the sikakon is somebody that comes and he steals. Right? And by the way, everyone knows that it's less value. What's the proof? Right? When they go to all these different types of markets and they're buying stolen products, it's always going to be less than the true value of the product. Question is how much less? So Meitve, they're going to ask the following question. Zo Mishnah Rishona, this is the first Mishnah. Betin, however, though the Bedin Avacharim came and they said, if you're going to take it from the Sikakon, not the Baalim Ravia, you're going to take from the Baalim 1 Reva, 1/4. Fiat Baalim Aliyuna, and the Baalim always have the upper hand. Ratzu Bekarka, if they want, they could take land. Notlin, they could take it. And if it's Ratzu, if they wanted the money, they could take it the money. Ematai, one of these words, is Man Shen Biadan Likach, if they don't have the money to take it from the Sikakon himself. But if they have money to take from the Sikakon, they take it, they have first grabs to take it from the Sikakon. However, the Rabbi put a bedin and he said that if he stayed for 12 months in the hands of the Sikakon, anybody that takes it is going to be zoche. Which means that after 12 months, a person becomes, as if to say, that exempt from the first right of refusal. Which means he can't do anything anymore. But he just gives ravia, whether it's going to be in karka or in the ma'ot. So Amar Ravashi comes and he says, Hitanya, when do we say this? That it's ravia b'ma'ot, only after it came into his hands. Okay, we continue with Hashem tomorrow.